The Kremlin's propaganda machine is accustomed to doing whatever it takes to produce victory narratives. However, this time, a victory video they released turned into an execution order for their own troops. On November 10th and 11th, Russian Z propagandists showed their Mad Max-style units infiltrating Покровск under heavy fog. The footage reflected the Kremlin's dream of a quick and decisive victory. But this post was a gift package for Ukrainian intelligence. Ukrainian thermal FPV drones saw through the fog, tracked the engine's heat signatures, and picked off that Mad Max convoy one by one. But that wasn't the real blow. It was just the beginning. Just days later, on November 15th, Ukrainian warplanes took to the skies. Their target was the main route revealed in that victory video, the critical Seledovo-Pokrovsk highway that the Russians were using to infiltrate. Heavy glide bombs were fired, and the Russians' main supply artery was instantly turned into hell. November 15th, 2025, marked a turning point in the logistics war on the Покровск front. Immediately following the Mad Max leak and the exposure of propagandists, the Ukrainian Air Force took action. First, the Ukrainian Airborne Forces, DSHV, issued an official statement. They announced the destruction of a critical Russian supply route on the Seledovo-Pokrovsk highway. This was not a one-vehicle hit statement. This was a one main road destroyed statement. The difference is the difference between tactical success and strategic victory. Shortly thereafter, footage of that strike surfaced. A drone observes the moment of the strike from a distance. Two large explosions. Then, after the strike, two massive craters in the middle of the highway. The road is completely destroyed. Traffic is impossible. OSINT Technical's analysis was clear. A Ukrainian Air Force fighter jet dropped two heavy glide bombs on this road east of Seledovo. This was likely a modernized MiG-29 or one of the newly arrived F-16. What does this strike mean? It means the light vehicle route used by the Russians for their Mad Max infiltration is now permanently crippled. Those massive craters have made Russian passage impossible. These craters are likely the work of JDAM or hammer bombs with 225 kilogram, 500 pound, or heavier warheads. These bombs are designed to penetrate the asphalt and destroy the road's underlying infrastructure. The Russians were so incompetent in their operation to cut off Ukraine's M04 main supply line that they exposed their own main attack supply lines, the Seledovo-Pokrovsk road, used for this operation in a propaganda video. As a result, Ukraine also destroyed the Russians' own attack line by taking the opponent's queen for free. This strike was an action that sealed the logistical nightmare for 170,000 soldiers. But this was not Ukraine's only strategic move that day. Ukraine's operation on November 15th was not limited to Покровск. It was a coordinated and strategic plan aimed at simultaneously crippling Russian logistics on two different fronts. Ukraine responded to the light vehicle secondary road infiltration tactic developed by the Russians to evade FPV drones with a double blow of heavy bombs. The first strike was the destruction of the Seledovo-Pokrovsk line, which we just analyzed and which propagandists had revealed, with heavy glide bombs. The second strike, almost simultaneously with the strike on Покровск, was another critical operation hundreds of kilometers south, on the Zaporizhia front. A Ukrainian MiG-29 fighter jet struck a critical Russian crossing point near Kamyanska. This was no ordinary crossing point. According to reports, it was the Russians' only high-quality asphalt road in the area. In other words, just like in Покровск, it was a lifeline used by light vehicles and logistics trucks for infiltration and resupply. What munitions were used? US-made GBU-62, JDAMER, heavy glide bombs. Was this a coincidence? Absolutely not. This is Ukraine's strategic response to Russian tactics. The Russians abandoned armor to evade FPVs, relying on speed. Ukraine, however, said, well, then let's destroy the roads you're going to use to move quickly. These two strategic strikes permanently crippled the Russians' Plan B for supplying their 170,000-strong Покровск buildup and their southern units. There may no longer be a safe road for motorcycles, Bukanka minibuses, or trucks. So, why is Putin so obsessed with Покровск that he would sacrifice 25,000 soldiers? Because Покровsk is not just a dot on the map. It is the cornerstone of Ukraine's entire Donbass defense. It is the logistical heart of Donbass. It is the biggest obstacle to Putin's dream of controlling the Donetsk region, which he has been unable to fully capture for 11 years. Here's why. Покровск is the last major railway and highway junction in the Donbass that remains under Ukrainian control. More importantly, the main supply route feeding Ukraine's northern Donbass garrisons, namely Kostiantynivka, Kramatorsk, and Sloviansk, the M04 highway, passes just north of Покровск. The Russian advance, through months of bloody attacks, has squeezed this vital M04 supply route into a dangerous bottleneck of about 5 to 10 kilometers, within range of their fire control. What happens if the Russian army captures Покровск or permanently cuts the M04 highway? Tens of thousands of Ukrainian troops in Kramatorsk and Sloviansk would find themselves under a massive logistical siege. They could not receive supplies, transport ammunition, or evacuate the wounded. This could mean the collapse of Ukraine's entire Donbass defense. This strategic prize is why Putin sent 25,000 soldiers to their deaths. But now, what is happening is pure irony. While Ukraine is fighting to defend its own main supply route, the M04, on November 15th, the Russians destroyed their own main supply route, the Selidovo-Pokrovsk line, with the help of a Russian propagandist. This is like in a chess game, your opponent trying to checkmate you while giving away their queen for free. While Putin's generals were trying to cut off Ukraine's logistical heart, they lost one of their own logistical arteries. Let's look technically at how this double strategic strike, Покровск and Zaporizhia, on November 15th was possible. Ukrainian jets, whether modernized MiG-29s capable of carrying Western munitions or F-16s, can bypass S-400s and drop heavy glide bombs on strategic targets. So how? These strikes did not happen in a vacuum. The answer lies in the systematic collapse of Russian air defense. Just the night before, on November 14th to 15th, strong evidence and images emerged showing that 4 S-400 systems were destroyed during Ukraine's major drone attack on Russia's Novorossiysk port.
Oh, drone. Drone is here.
This marked the first use of these long-range, land-based Neptune missiles, and the confirmation came directly from the highest level, from Zelensky himself. The Russians had 12 S-400 Triumph launchers stacked at the port. According to satellite imagery and SBU reports, 4 S-400 launchers, along with 2 96N6 early warning radars and 2 92N6 target acquisition radars, which are even more valuable, were completely destroyed. This is not an isolated loss. It is evidence that Ukraine is systematically targeting Russian air defense radars and batteries. Every S-400 system destroyed opens a corridor in the sky for Ukrainian jets to operate. Who is using these opened corridors is equally important. We do not know for certain whether the November 15th strike was carried out by F-16. We do know that the strike in Zaporizhia was carried out by a modernized MiG-29 capable of carrying Western munitions. However, reports emerging around the same time indicate that F-16s are no longer just for training. On November 14th, reports and images were published showing Ukrainian F-16 ground technicians actively working, preparing the aircraft for sorties several times a day. This could be the strongest indication yet that the F-16s have entered an operational tempo. The Selidovo-Pokrovsk strike, whether carried out by a MiG-29 or an F-16, is a strategic outcome of this new air capability. However, regardless of the aircraft model, the real game changer was the munitions themselves, heavy glide bombs, namely the US-made JDAM-ER or the French-made AASMM Hammer. So, what are these munitions, and why did they destroy that road so easily? These systems take classic iron bombs, referred to as dumb, unguided bombs that can range from 225 kilograms, 500 pounds, to 900 kilograms, 2,000 pounds. They are fitted with a GPS guidance kit and deployable fins. This simple modification changes two things. The bomb becomes a smart weapon, capable of locating its target with millimeter precision. And most importantly, thanks to the fins, it glides like a glider after being dropped from the aircraft. This gliding capability means a range of up to 70 kilometers, as exemplified by the GBU-62 JDAM-ER used in Zaporizhia. The real power of these bombs comes from the hundreds of pounds of explosives they carry. They are designed to completely destroy a highway, a bridge, or a command center. The massive craters on the Seledovo-Покровsk road are likely the result of the direct impact of a 225-kilogram, 500-pound, or heavier bomb. This not only shatters the asphalt, but also renders the road unusable, along with its infrastructure. This means that a Ukrainian pilot, whether flying a MiG-29 or an F-16, can launch this hundreds of kilograms heavy fragmentation bomb at its target from a safe distance of 70 kilometers without entering the lethal range of Russian air defenses, using the fire and forget principle. So, how did Ukraine learn the coordinates of this road in Покровск, this Plan B, so precisely? The answer lies in Putin's own propaganda machine. To strike a strategic road, you need to know that it is strategic. It was the Kremlin's own propagandist who gifted Ukraine the coordinates of the Seledovo-Покровsk highway, which was struck on November 15th. While the Mad Max fiasco was unfolding, there was panic at the propaganda center in Moscow. The Kremlin was hungry for a victory story, a success at any cost. To satisfy this hunger, Alexander Kotsy, one of the most well-known Z propagandists, took the stage. Kotsy, either on the orders of the generals or out of a desire to curry favor with the Kremlin, released a video showing the infiltration attempts of November 10th to 11th. In this video, there were motorcycle and Bukhanka units advancing through the fog. Kotsy presented this as a success, a breakthrough of the Ukrainian defense operation. Behind this post was the immense pressure created by Sergei Kiriyenko, the Kremlin's first deputy chief of staff. Kiriyenko was demanding a quick and single great victory. Putin's generals and propagandists had to deliver that victory to Moscow. Even if it didn't exist in reality, they had to invent it. However, Alexander Kotsy's announcement of this victory was a gift package for Ukrainian OSINT, open source intelligence, and military planners. Why? Because Kotsy's video didn't just show a successful infiltration, it also revealed the exact route of that infiltration. Specifically, which point on the Seledovo-Покровsk highway was used and under what conditions. Without realizing it, Kotsy had handed his own army's lifeline, the logistics route that needed to feed 170,000 soldiers, to Ukrainian intelligence on a silver platter. And the moment that sealed the fiasco, that made the collapse official, came after the bombing on November 15th. The same propagandist, Alexander Kotsy, was forced to publish a confession filled with disappointment. Kotsy's confession is significant word for word. He bitterly confirmed that, immediately after the videos were released, the next day, the road had been mined by Ukraine and had become impassable. So what was the origin of this unimaginable desperation that drove Kotsy to publish this video and Russian generals to put their soldiers on motorcycles? The answer is the meat grinder in Покровск itself. The Mad Max-like scenes we witnessed on November 10th were not a tactical genius, but the tragicomic culmination of a horrific military disaster that had been unfolding for weeks. We know that Russia had amassed between 150,000 and 170,000 troops in the Покровск direction. So what did this massive army do? A complete chain of failures. ISW reported on November 6th that the Russians attempted mechanized attacks with armored units. The result? Ukrainian FPV drones and anti-tank weapons hunted down these expensive convoys. When the mechanized punch failed, Russian generals reverted to the most primitive tactic, human wave attacks. The numbers reveal the scale of this brutality. Ukrainian President Zelensky announced that in October alone, there were 25,000 Russian casualties in the Покровск direction. This is a loss rate exceeding that of Bakhmut. ISW confirmed this exceptionally high loss rate on November 10th. As the human wave also melted away, Russian command attempted to infiltrate with around 300 soldiers in civilian clothing. They seized the Покровск City Council building for propaganda purposes. Within just a few hours, Ukraine's 425th Skelia Regiment retook the building and raised the Ukrainian flag. This was a second propaganda defeat.